Welcome. How is everybody doing? It is August 13th, 2026. This is RambleCast. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and welcome everybody. How are all of you doing? There is no Corbin today. He is, as I understand it, skiing in the Alps with his rich oligarch friends. That's what he really does in his off time. Yeah, shame on him. He's a traitor to us all. But speaking of traitors to us all, it was just mentioned in chat. I wasn't actually going to make this a topic. But yes, YouTube did change its partner program. I haven't really... The reason I wasn't going to make it a topic is I kind of forgot to look into details because there's, I think, a lot more to say about this than what has been said. Or rather, well, a lot more than what any single article covers. The basic gist for anyone who hasn't heard is YouTube raised the thresholds for anyone to get paid out from the YouTube Partner Program. If you're a shorts creator, you now have to have, I believe it's 10. It was a 10 million or 20 million. Let's see. Is it 20? Their blog post just absolutely floods with that. Okay. Let's see. New creators applying. Oh, well, okay. So first they also, it gets messy. So they raised the number of watch hours you need in order to get into the YouTube Partner Program. You now need to have 8,000 qualified watch hours in the last year. But if you were already in the program, you don't need to hit that. You need whatever the old number was, which I think was 4,000. I could be wrong. Regardless, they raised that requirement. If you're making shorts, you now need to have 20 million qualified shorts views in the last 90 days instead of, I believe it used to be 10 million. So yeah, they're literally doubling the requirements to make any money at all and to make any money off of shorts. I believe long form content didn't really change much. And they also raised the requirements in order to make money off of subscriptions, which that's a weird one. I don't see a good logic behind that. If anything, actually, I think that's kind of intentionally malicious. So, yeah, the purported reason YouTube doesn't come right out and claim this is the reason, but supposedly, or at least it has been inferred that a big part of the reason for this is there's a bunch of AI slop being posted to YouTube, and they are somehow thinking that raising the requirements is going to discourage that. Basically, there are a bunch of channels that all they do is generate a bunch of AI videos, post them, and it gets some views. Like, they're not necessarily making anything good or useful, but it gets them enough views that they end up qualifying. So YouTube is raising the requirements because somehow that's going to stop them. All I think that's going to do is encourage the AI generation to just make more videos and post them more heavily, which doesn't really change anything. It makes it harder for people making original, legitimate content to generate enough content to meet the requirements, whereas the AI slop companies, or producers, whatever you want to call them, are just going to gin up more video, more slop, which I guess is good for Gemini. You know, that'll increase their usage numbers. But it's not going to make it any better useful for like legitimate creators. So Yeah. The changes to the YouTube Partner Program are objectively pretty bad. Um, I I think they would accomplish a lot more if they just set like a a qualifying requirement on content has to be a certain amount of like original legitimate content, like something filmed or something made in some way that doesn't just qualify as AI slop. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a sane human. Um so let's see. I don't know exactly where I want to start with the actual topics for this week. Also, hello to Carson and Alyssa. How are you two doing? Um, so there are actually a few topics outside of Made by Google. Um, yeah, gotta boost those Gemini subscriptions. Honestly, I really do think like it's funny because so much of the controversy is specifically around like people are convinced that this is supposed to slow down the AI slop and take away profits from them. I think it's the exact opposite. I think YouTube may have actually been encouraged to change these requirements specifically for the purpose of basically feeding more more token usage on Gemini. Um, and to some extent, like legitimate creators are also now going to be because they're going to need to shorten their pipeline in order to get content out. I think a lot of them are going to be sort of forced to start using a lot more AI in whatever capacity that's going to be. That could be in the form of using like AI video editing. It could be in the form of like it doing, I don't know, like video transitions or stuff like that. Just trusting AI to do some of this stuff right, and uh, obviously using various other like cloud-based tools um, for like transcription or I don't know. There are a lot of AI tools actually going into video editing right now. Some of them good, some of them bad, but it is what it is. Um, but yeah. Anyway, so I wasn't entirely sure where I wanted to start this one. Do I start with the Made by Google event, or do I save that for last? Because truthfully, here's the thing. Not gonna lie. I think a lot of people already know as much as they really want to know or care about. I have some comments on a lot of this stuff, but uh, there are reasonably some various angles to discuss here. Um, so let's see. I think what I'll actually do is we'll save the Made by Google stuff for a little bit later. Instead, actually, I think I'm going to kind of start this at the end. Um, let's see. So one of the things that's actually, let's see, it was announced on the 7th. So this was Friday of last week. Which before I even mention that, what I'm going to be talking about is Insta360. And just to quickly mention it because it did come up today. Oops, I forgot to change cards. Give me 1 second while I find the right screen. There we go. So just today, Insta360 announced the X6. It is a 360 camera. I'm not actually making this a topic. I'm just mentioning it because this is kind of dominating the Insta360 news at the moment. But I will say it looks pretty sweet. If you've been looking for a 360 camera, this would definitely be like the obvious hot new choice. I haven't done it yet, but I will be putting an affiliate link on my website in case anyone is interested in getting this. So yeah, it looks pretty awesome. But that is actually not the camera that I'm going to be talking about today, though. I don't know if this one will also get the feature I'm about to discuss. As far as I know, it hasn't been mentioned, but I don't know if it'll get it. However, let's talk about the Insta360 Go Ultra. This camera has been out for, I want to say, about 9-ish months, maybe 6, somewhere in that vicinity. It's under a year, I believe, but it's been out for a while. What's interesting about it, and obviously, like, you can scroll down the page and there are a ton of different things that they're highlighting. But oops, wow, as my ears are about to get blown out by a auto playing sound on the page. But just last week, they introduced a new feature called Kira. Kira is an AI voice assistant. You know what? Let me switch my camera position a little. I'm not sure that helps. But hey, we're going to go with it. So Kira is an AI voice assistant that can do a few interesting features. Tell me if these sound familiar. Real-time translation. So you can hold the camera out to someone. It can pick up their voice in one language and translates it for your language, and vice versa. You can ask questions, like how long it takes to get from one place to another. You can ask what it sees in its camera. Again, this is a camera. And it has voice print recognition, which also kind of a specific notable feature. What does this sound like to you? It sounds like every AI voice assistant product that companies are trying to come out with, like the Humane AI Pin, which terrible company, terrible product that didn't really work for shit, but it existed. This is a real company coming out with something that does the exact same thing in a real product that has a good camera on it. This, notably, the Insta360 Go Ultra is a legitimately really good action cam. And as you can see from the background, it is wearable. Basically, this is all the stuff of the Humane AI Pin, but done better. And it's now a free feature in a camera that, okay, actually, I don't remember how much this costs. It's not the cheapest of cameras, for sure. Let's see. I'm just checking their store page. Okay, the camera is $450. With, well, that's the standard bundle. I think that's about as cheap as it's gonna get. I don't know. There might be some way to get it with just the camera minus some other accessories, but yeah. So for $450, you have a functioning AI assistant, and I'm not aware of any subscription attached to this. I don't think there is one, but correct me if I'm wrong, I suppose. Actually, here is their official announcement. No use of the word subscription in their announcement, so I'm going to assume it doesn't have one. What gets me about this is a legitimate company doing this. Insta360, I've reviewed several of their products. I've used a lot of their products. This is objectively a good company actually doing the thing that crappy companies have previously tried to accomplish. And they're doing it at least as well as those companies, if not better. I don't know. I don't have this camera and I don't have this feature to test. So on that note, Insta360, if you'd like to share it, I'd be happy to check this out. But setting that aside, this is, I think, at least from some of the comments that I've read so far, it sounds like this is effectively at least on par with some of the somewhat earlier versions of Gemini in terms of like ability to identify things from photos, the ability to do translations, some of the other features like just answering questions in general. A lot of this stuff sounds like it's pretty functional already. And it just strikes me, all those crap companies were doing a bad job, and here is one company that it, look, I've spoken plenty of times about how much I think Insta360 is a company that is doing remarkably well by looking at other other companies' products and then doing them right. Kind of in the same way that Nest deserves credit for having looked at thermostats and saying, "Hey, uh, all of these suck. We're just gonna do one right," and then they did. Uh, I think that's what Insta360 has done with action cameras. I think that's what they mostly have done with smartphone gimbals. Well, definitely smartphone gimbals. Jesus. Um, and then, and it, they also did it with a 360 drone. So here they are. They're now making a regular action camera that warrants purchasing just on its own, and they just upgraded it with a feature that completely eliminates the usefulness of the companies that were making useless products in the first place. Yeah, streamers. Well, okay, so you could absolutely use certain Insta360 cameras as like webcams. I assume that's what you mean. Um, I don't think I don't think too many people are necessarily using Insta360 cameras as webcams, just because most webcams, like your typical webcam, cost about $100 or less. Like you can actually get a pretty serviceable webcam with decent quality for like $60. Um, it's not what I would call great, but it's fine. Um, Action cameras, like most of Insta360's gear, uh, they will give you better like low light performance by a little bit. Actually, well, kind of by a lot. um, and yeah, you absolutely could use these. The only thing is, I don't think that there's an Insta360 camera out there that's under like, I want to say about $400. Um, let's see, real quick. I'm just gonna pop open their page and see if I can find anything that isn't gonna be uh, more expensive. We can just pop it here. Okay, so store. Um, okay, so I know the X6 is gonna. This is like what, 700? Yeah, 700. Um, the Luna is, wow, really? 770. Jeez. Oh, what happened to GoPro? Oh, I can make comments about GoPro. Frankly, I think GoPro is, I don't think they're dead, but they're trying to be. Oops, that's a mic, not a camera. Though the Mic Pro does look really cool. Insta360. Okay. Oh, that's the selfie screen. These, I look, it has nothing to do with Insta360 here. There are other companies that make these. I think they're bad. I mean, they're a nice idea, but I have a couple. They're not really that useful. Let's see. The Go Ultra was $450. Already looked that one up. The X4 Air and the X5 are maybe discounted at this point, but otherwise they're not really cheaper. The Ace Pro 2 is going to be, okay, that's been discounted to $390. I have this camera. It is really good. I haven't tried it as a webcam, but other than that, like, it's a really good camera. Let's see. The only other one that might be is where is it at? I saw it just a second ago. Oh, they do have actual webcams. That's also notable. So the Go 3S is, I wouldn't recommend using this one as a webcam, but $320. I guess that's about the cheapest. And then they have, like I said, actual webcam. The Insta360 Link 2 and Link 2C. And that's $200. Like, Insta360 doesn't make the cheapest stuff on the market, but to be fair, their stuff is better than Like if I'm trying to pick something that is an action camera shape and format, but maybe a little bit less of an action camera, a little bit more of like vlogging camera, hands down Insta360, not even in question. If you wanted more as an action camera, then DJI and Insta360 is kind of a toss-up. Like, I'd be a little more comfortable putting a DJI action camera through absolute hell, like something that should just destroy the camera. I would think DJI is a little bit less fragile, mostly because it doesn't have like flip up screens or some of the other features. But yeah, it you know, it's a toss up. Also, DJI is a bit cheaper. Well, I should say lower cost. I don't mean cheaper in quality, just cheaper in price. But otherwise, yeah, is what it is. But yeah, I don't think a lot of streamers would necessarily go to Insta360 for specifically using their cameras as a webcam. But if you happen to have a reason to get an Insta360 camera, then using it as a webcam would make total sense too. Like, let it serve double duty, that's fine. What happened to GoPro? GoPro stopped innovating in a lot of ways. So they've done one cool thing in the last several years, and they've really screwed up on a lot of other things. So GoPro, obviously, like, they made action cameras a thing. Like, they really just brought about the game of action cameras, and they did a good job with that. They had two really huge problems over the last several years. Problem number one, their batteries are freaking horrible. And it's not just their batteries. Aftermarket, third-party batteries seem to have the same problem that all GoPro batteries have. I don't know why. The problem is the charging rates on their batteries are abhorrent. If you take a battery out of any of the DJI action cameras or Insta360 cameras, you put those into a charger, or if you try to charge by cable, those batteries are going to take between 40 minutes to an hour to charge. It's not great, but it's fine. Like, and I'll tell you where my threshold is on this in a moment. If you take a GoPro battery and charge it, you're looking at closer to 3 hours. I think these days it might be down to closer to 2, but it's still a lot longer. Now, here's why I find this to be a problem. I have in my head a specific scenario that I consider to be the threshold for whether or not battery charging times are acceptable. Snowboarding. Anyone who has ever gone snowboarding, and this applies to a lot of stuff. It's not just snowboarding, but my past experience is snowboarding, so I'm going to use that as the reference point. If you go up on the mountain, you show up obviously with your batteries charged. You put in your batteries, you put on the camera, you start recording, you go down the hill a bunch of times, you go up the lift, so on and so forth. Great. Eventually you take lunch. So you come down the hill, hit the lodge, you pull out your battery. You've probably used a couple, 2-3 batteries, whatever. You plug the batteries into a charging cradle and let it go while you get lunch. If you've ever had lunch at a lodge, you know you're probably not getting your food right away, but still, your lunch is probably going to be between an hour and an hour and a half. Hour and a half is top end, because you're there to go out and snowboard or ski or whatever. Like, you want to get back out there. If you go with GoPro batteries, when you pull those off the cradle, you're going to have like 50% charge on each battery. If you go with DJI or Ace or Insta360 cameras and their batteries, when you pull those off the cradle, They might not be at 100%, but they're going to be like tickling at least 90%. That is a huge difference. You are not going to have to change batteries much more frequently than you did when they were at full if you're using either of those brands. But GoPro, those batteries are freaking horrible. So I just have no love for GoPro batteries. The other issue, get rid of that stupid banner. The other issue with GoPro is, do they show anything here on the, not that. Yeah, okay. Right there. The ultimate GoPro experience. Notice, let's pop back to that one. See it just above that, it says GoPro subscription. You have, look, if you've owned a Mac or an iPad, or I'm sure an iPhone, then you've seen Apple kind of shoving like iCloud at you. If you've used Windows, you've seen Microsoft shoving, yeah, I don't even know what, a lot of subscriptions at you. Like, the companies push their subscriptions a lot. And GoPro is so much more obscene with their subscription pushing. It's really irritating. I was sent one of their cameras for review, and the amount of times that they tried to shove the subscription down my throat, tried to get me to agree to the free trial, tried to get me to do this, tried to get me to do that, all just so they could, again, be like, hey, we have this great service, please come use it and pay us a monthly fee. It's like, I don't want this. I don't even want what it offers. But man, they push hard. They push so hard, and it's really frustrating. And it's not just in their app, it's in the camera itself. I hated it. That was a terrible experience. And from what I understand, they've only made it worse. So I think a lot of people have been driven away from GoPro thanks to this. And also, again, you know, there's really good competition. Like, if you're talking image quality, DJI and Insta360 are better. At the very least, GoPro certainly isn't better than them. I mean, it could be on par, depending on which cameras you're comparing, but it's not better. GoPro also lacks a couple of features that they offer. Yeah, it honestly, the company just fell behind and didn't make anything good enough to warrant like much attention. Now, that being said, there is a new product on the market called the One Pro, or the Mission One. They are calling these compact cinema cameras. I have only learned a little bit about these. One of the cool things about them is there's actually, like, I believe they support interchangeable lenses. Which is kind of a new thing for, yeah. So, okay, the Mission One Pro ILS. ILS, for those that don't know, and I wouldn't expect most people to, that's short for Interchangeable Lens System. And this supports Micro Four Thirds lenses. It actually has a full camera mount for Micro Four Thirds lens. Micro Four Thirds, in case, again, for those that aren't super into the camera market, Micro Four Thirds lens is a actual, like, common standard. And to say standard is actually, like, meaningful for once. Because so within the camera world, if you buy like a Sony camera, you can get aftermarket lenses. There are plenty of aftermarket lenses, or third-party lenses, I should say. But for the most part, like, you're using whatever Sony's lens mount system is. You can get adapters and use other lenses, but for the most part, you basically just have to use Sony's lens mount. And likewise with Canon and Nikon. You pretty much just have to use their specific lens mount. Micro Four Thirds is a legitimate, actual common standard. So any company, I believe, I don't know if this is encumbered by patents or licensing, but regardless, it is actually treated as an open standard. Any company can make Micro Four Thirds lenses, and so there are actually quite a few companies that make Micro Four Thirds cameras and lenses. You've certainly heard some of these names. Fuji makes Micro Four Thirds. Panasonic does. In fact, a lot of Panasonic's higher end cameras are based on Micro Four Thirds. And Micro Four Thirds lenses, or sorry, the Micro Four Thirds sensors are smaller than like APS-C and full frame sensors, but not by a lot. So they're still pretty good. But they do have a bit more of a crop factor, which I'm not going to try to explain that. If you're into cameras, you already understand it. If you aren't into cameras, it's not worth explaining. So yeah, they're trying to do something different, and I appreciate that. But it still feels like the Mission 1 is just another action camera, but with a bulkier lens. It's neat that they're trying it. I don't know how good it is. I haven't tried one. And the prices are actually pretty reasonable. I mean, the base model is $500, and when the ILS version comes out, that's going to be $700. These are actually really good, reasonable prices. But yeah, I'm reserving judgment until they happen. So yeah, and it doesn't help that GoPro, just as a company, has also made a lot of mediocre to poor decisions. I used to have GoPro stock, and watching that stock just creep ever downward was painful. Both because I like to see competition in the market, but also because I get thinking, hey, guys, I'm losing money on you. Could you just like do something cool? And then they just never did, and it's like, all right, I give up. So yeah. Anyway, so like I said, I think it's cool that companies are, or that Insta360 at least is trying something new and kind of adventurous with its cameras. Like turning the camera into something completely different is wild to me. So yeah, anyway, again, if anyone happens to be interested in these, I will be adding affiliate links to both the Go Ultra and the X6 later. Let's see. So, switching gears to, where is the link for this? Or where's the tab? Sure. Well, let's actually start over here. So we have App Store news. Lots of App Store news. We're going to be hitting both Apple and Google with this one. Because somehow Epic's wild lawsuits have actually been surprisingly successful in driving some changes. So, Apple, with their outside of the App Store purchasing options, the quick summary on this, the mega quick summary on this, is that after lots of legal back and forth, Apple did lose a few things in their lawsuit, or in their defense against Epic. And basically one of the things that they were forced to do was agree to open up outside of the App Store purchasing. So basically you can go to other options for making purchases. And their wild decision was to decide, hey, instead of charging developers 30% for selling on the App Store, we're going to charge 27% commission for selling off the App Store. So, yeah. Basically, they just wanted to get a huge cut of all sales made, no matter what. And pretty much everyone agreed that this was not in the spirit of the decision. It was basically a price-based deterrent from actually using anything that was off App Store, which is, of course, the reason many companies wanted to move off the App Store in the first place. So, yeah, this was basically a malicious compliance kind of move. Anyway, the judge, Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers, has basically held Apple in contempt, and basically told them, you have to come up with something better. Just do better. Like, give us a more realistic number. And so Apple has now submitted, and the court has not issued a decision on this yet, but Apple has submitted a new proposal. So basically they want to amend this, or they're open to amending this to 15% for standard apps, and then still a 30% in-app purchase commission, which okay. 10% for video partner program, news partner program, and mini apps partner program. And subscription renewals. And then 5% for any companies that are part of the small business program. Or rather, apps that are part of that. I don't know if there's a distinction. And, of course, Apple has given its explanation for how this would work, or why it should be accepted. They also apparently compared themselves to Google Play Store, which I don't think is a reasonable comparison, but that's neither here nor there. And so on and so forth. So, no decision has been issued yet. We'll see if one is issued in their favor or not. I kind of suspect they're going to get some pushback on this. And yeah, so this doesn't really affect consumers directly too much. Obviously, people want to be able to, or developers want to be able to open up other payment avenues, other options for payments. And this extends beyond just trying to get cheaper options for sorry, not cheaper, but more profitable ways to handle monetizing your app. Sometimes the options here are also based on like wanting to use different business models. Let's say funding an app through Patreon, or crowdfunding options as opposed to funding it through your traditional in-app purchase or standard purchase. There are also angles where obviously developers sometimes want to quote unquote own the customer, and that sounds maybe a little more malicious than it is, but literally having a direct relationship with the customer instead of having Apple functioning as an intermediary. So a lot of developers would just like to even be able to know a customer's email address, something that they do not get as a result of a purchase in the App Store. Also, developers would like to be able to sometimes handle their own refunds, or being able to perform customer service properly, which you literally can't do in the App Store. Like, if a customer comes to you and says, hey, I want a refund, even if you're like, yeah, totally, I'd be happy to give it to them, the App Store doesn't let you do that. They have to request the refund through the App Store, and it's the App Store's decision whether or not they get it. So, yeah, there are a lot of problems these days with Apple's specific handling of the App Store. And so a lot of people want off of there for various reasons, but even if they want it off for reasons unrelated to the App Store commission, that 27% commission that they tried to charge before was prohibitive to actually doing that, which is, of course, why the judge ultimately said, no, you can't charge 27%. That's ridiculous. Fix it. So that's how we got to where we are today. And I would argue, Apple, you did this to yourself. Being too draconian for too long really set you up to fail. So, good job, guys. You screwed up. Like, you held on for too long. That being said, I think Apple also is playing a very specific strategy, and they're not foolish for playing this strategy. I just think in the long run it hurts them more than it helps them. That strategy is they are basically dragging this out as long as possible. And by that what I mean is today they're well, was it today? Actually, I don't know if it was today or not. Yeah, today. So today they're submitting this proposal. They will very likely, like, they will get their answer at some point, but they're probably submitting a proposal that I think they know is going to get rejected. And the reason I think that is because they still want to charge 30% on in-app purchases. But I suspect what's going to happen is the judge is going to throw this back at them and say, nope, this isn't good enough, try again. And then they're going to have another, I don't know, 30 or 60 or 90 days to come up with another proposal, maybe. They're going to keep trying to go on a loop as long as they can, because the longer they can hold out, the longer they get to keep behaving the way that they currently do, which is to their benefit, or at least they think it is. It is certainly more profitable the way that they're operating today. So yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly genuine about their effort, but they are doing what they're doing. So switching sides to Android, this gets us to the Android App Store, and the fact that Google was forced to start carrying competing app stores in its store, which bewilderingly Apple isn't being required to do in the US. Google is, but not Apple. You know, the company that doesn't even allow sideloading is getting away with doing less than the company that already was like, yeah, sure, sideloading's awesome. Though maybe Google isn't exactly super forthcoming with the sideloading these days either. Nevertheless, the judge uses an iPhone. I honestly don't know if they do or not, but yeah, the issue is, honestly, the issue is that Google hired really dumb lawyers. And I actually say that sincerely, because the lawyers in these two cases, I can tell you what made the difference. 100% I can tell you what made the difference. The judge in when Epic sued Apple, because they're the defendant, gets to choose how the venue's rules work. So they basically get to choose, does the judge make the final decision, or do we get a jury? Apple chose a jury. Google chose to let the judge make the decision. Here's the deal. Juries are random. They're a lot less predictable. They also don't understand the laws, not to the level that a judge would. They also are much more easily manipulated. And if you're a good enough lawyer, frankly, you can pretty much dupe a jury into at least giving you some sort of leeway. Google, however, went against a judge. And a judge basically just saw one thing after another that the Epic team used as proof that Google was anti-competitive and was malicious in various ways, and that they were using monopoly power. The judge knows the laws, knows what was relevant, and knew to pick that apart like crazy, and basically ruled against Google for very obvious reasons. And very notably, these were two different judges. Also, Google made the really stupid mistake of destroying evidence, which handed the judge a lot of reason to just basically say, no, you guys are guilty, straight up. Like, you destroyed evidence. go pound sand. Like, I'm not giving you any flexibility. And meanwhile, you've got Apple, where they were kind of straight up like admitting, yeah, we do some anti-competitive stuff, but that's business, baby. And tons of stuff came out of the Epic versus Apple trial. Like, that was news that we were making fun of on this show for a couple months. But man, the thing is, they had a jury, and the jury was not that hard to manipulate into at least acknowledging Apple may have broken some rules, but other rules they broke for good reason or something. I'm not really sure what their rationale was, but yeah, they gave Apple a lot less hostility than a judge gave to Google. So, yep, that's kind of how we got to this stupid place where Google has much harsher rules against them than Apple does, even though they are performing basically the same actions. Anyway, getting back to current events, a few days ago, the first rival app store has arrived in the Play Store. This is Aptoide. Those that don't know, Aptoide is basically a gaming store or games store. And yes, it absolutely serves Android games. If you're in the EU, Aptoide also exists there on iOS, where Apple is forced to allow alternative app stores and sideloading. So Aptoide exists there as well. And if well, yeah, that's about it. Anyway, so I haven't tried it out. I don't particularly care too much to check it out. I probably will eventually, and there will be more stores coming. Other companies have already acknowledged that they are either building or intend to build app stores to live on the Play Store. Yeah, anyway, so that's the first one today. There will be more. And yeah, so that's kind of the catch up. However, that's not where the news ends. Because with that first app store already appearing, they are already back in front of a judge. Judge Donato is the one that's been handling the Epic Google case, and Epic is basically calling them out for anti-competitive placement in the App Store. Now, you could read through this whole thing and get a sense of just how big of a mess it is, but there we go. That kind of brings it up a little better. But Epic basically went page by page demonstrating how much of a kind of mess Google's interface is for this. Now, I call it a mess, but I'm actually going to defend it in a moment. Nevertheless, they basically demonstrated for the judge that if you search for the term App Store, or even name the App Store, in this case Aptoide, then Google puts up banners that basically say, hey, are you looking for this specific kind of thing? Well, you can find it if you go to this other page. Otherwise, here are regular search results. And once you click to that page, it shows you a or well, not big, but it shows you a short explanation about third-party app stores. Kind of gives you a little bit of scare text, if you want to think of it that way, and then a listing of those stores with a view button next to it. Epic's complaints were, first, no other apps get this treatment of the "Are you looking for?" kind of banner. Like, they specifically gave it as an example: music. Are you looking for music? If you search for beats, if you search for music streaming apps, if you search for anything like that, you just get a list of those apps, and you can usually install them directly from that screen. Here, you get a banner that takes you to a separate page. And again, that page doesn't let you install from that screen. Instead, it has a view button that you have to tap, and then from that page, you can actually do your installation. And Epic also complained that there was basically just too many places where there's scare text, and that Google is basically putting too many hurdles between people and installing a third-party app store. This is actually, if you read the accounting in the Verge article, it sounds like it's almost described in a way that I would compare to like a junior developer working with like a project manager and another developer somewhere in the company who's basically just complaining about their work. It was basically a whole bunch of Epic complains about a thing. The judge says, "Oh, I don't like that," and Google's lawyers proceeding to say, "Yeah, okay, we'll change that." It was maybe the accounting given in the Verge article may not be correct, or it may be hyperbolic or lacking context, but it really screamed to me that Epic is just really in full sort of whine territory, and they're picking out any little detail that they can possibly nitpick, which I understand that's kind of what you want to do in a legal setting, but also, honestly, from looking at everything here, I think Google's implementation is fine. Because third-party app stores, and Google did give this as a point, third-party app stores do actually get enhanced permissions. They have more capabilities than your typical app. They do pose a greater threat to users. Not substantially. Well, sorry, it is substantial, but it's not catastrophic. But users should know more before they install third-party app stores. I think that is actually a credible argument to make. And Epic and the judge both were of the opinion, nope, this needs to be the Wild West. This is that way's better. And so I'm not exactly in love with what's going on here. I think Google's kind of getting the short end of the stick, and I know they're bound to do some anti-competitive things. That's a problem. It should be accounted for, but I'm not the biggest fan of this outcome as it's going right now. Let's see. Alyssa, imagine how much Apple would break down if the Apple versus US antitrust case. Apple would be the biggest psychotic meltdown if the antitrust case went to court. Given the current administration, I'm not going to go so far as to predict whether it will go to court or not. For obvious reasons. But at the same time, Apple has plenty of good lawyers. They're going to be fighting tooth and nail, and I think in any other administration, it's a sure thing that this does go to court. Apple's anti-competitive practices have been well documented. They are extensive. They hit a number of different places in a number of different ways. I don't think there's any question that that would eventually go to court with any other administration. We'll see what happens here. Um, well, of course, they're looking to settle. Every company is always looking to settle those. Nobody wouldn't. So yeah, I wouldn't make too much of that yet. I think there's a lot more to come in that particular arena. Um, and I have a feeling Apple will eventually be forced into something. I'm just not sure what. And if the case ends up getting settled or dismissed for basically too little, I think eventually we're going to. I know that this is going to sound like wildly optimistic thinking, but I have a feeling the next step is at some point somebody in Congress with enough pull is actually going to get on the warpath about this and start trying to. They're going to try to actually legislate a basically like app platform compliance law sort of thing, basically saying, yeah, this needs to actually happen. Like if our Justice Department can't get it um, through antitrust, then let's just create laws and force this to happen with or without them. I think that time is coming. If things don't get worked out in the courts first, and maybe it should come anyway. Just objectively, we do need to have some laws governing, um, basically how an app platform's owner treats it, and basically once they get to a certain size, or basically once they get so big, they need to start following new laws that dictate whether or not they basically how oppressive can they be, and under what circumstances can they justify that. Anyway, so let's see. So do I have? All right, I've finished those. So we are on to Made by Google. Um, Close these real quick. All right. So the Made by Google event yesterday. Wow, just wow. It was an event. It was an infomercial. I don't I don't feel like it. This isn't the first. We certainly had, like, last year, obviously, was just an infomercial instead of a, like, proper product announcement. Um, it is not as gross as some of Samsung's worst, but it still doesn't feel like a product announcement in the way that we'd like it. Um, I don't want to say everything should be like what Apple does for many reasons, but I do still prefer that format over what Made by Google gave us yesterday. Um, that being said, uh, let's also be honest. Year over year improvements don't happen like they used to. Um, eh, you know, a new Pixel phone, a new Pixel Watch, any new hardware they announce, it's not like they're going to show up with, hey, look at these great new specs. And look at these 12 new hardware features that we didn't have before. And look at this and look at that. That's not going to be a thing. Not like it used to be. And I don't think it needs to be. But at the same time, it is noticeable. It's tangible that there are... Uh, that we just don't have that same sort of um, excitement over exceptionally special hardware. Now it's more, how can they sell it? And that's very much what we got this time. It was a it was a sales show. It felt like an infomercial because they kept cycling from segment to segment, different people speaking, uh, focusing on a specific feature, about half of those features were actually things that have existed for multiple years already. So it's not as if it felt or looked at all like a real product announcement. It felt like an infomercial. Um okay. Yeah, so anyway, what did they announce? Hitting a couple of the lightweight things first. Um for the Pixel Buds Pro 2 and Buds 2A, they basically talked up the da, da, da. Sorry. Okay, so the Pro 2 is going to have dynamic active noise cancellation, which I'm pretty sure it already kind of had that, but I guess it's not as or I guess this is enhanced because you don't always have perfect sealing for your ears, so apparently it adjusts for that somehow. Um, I actually don't remember. I remember them bringing this up, but I don't remember anything that they said about it. To be fair, their discussion of the Pixel Buds was very brief. Um, you can now control the audio by just telling Gemini to make certain changes, which, okay, that's fine. This one's a little bit quirkier, but Pixel Watch Sleep Sync. So if you happen to have a Pixel Watch and you're wearing your Pixel Buds, presumably, hopefully in bed and not in any other context, besides maybe the couch, if the watch detects that you've fallen asleep, it will pause your music. I'm going to propose that this is a neat feature, but I think if you're watching video, I would actually rather do, or I think it needs to also do that or do something with that. How cool would it be if your watch detects that you're asleep and is like, oh, you're watching a movie? Yeah, we'll just pause the movie for you. That way you don't wake up in like 20 minutes and go, oh crap, how much did I miss? It should be able to pause the movie and say, yeah, you missed like 4 or 5 minutes. Here, we can back it up to that spot for you, or something. So pausing your music, fine, but how many people really care? Is it really going to make that big a difference? I mean, sure, it's probably better for battery life, and it might help to prevent the music from waking you up, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that this is as much of a needed feature as it is kind of a clever feature. And it speaks to something I'd rather have than the thing that they actually gave us. And then of course they also mentioned Live Translate, which, yeah, it's still the same thing, just slightly enhanced. That was pretty much it for the Pixel Buds. Not a lot to say. I don't have any, so I don't even really have much of an opinion on that. They also, I don't know if I'd call this an announcement per se, but they did also reveal officially and briefly discuss that they are going to be making Google Pixel tags. These are, of course, just like Air tags, but shaped differently. These, I guess, I think these are slightly better water and dust resistant. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the tags are coming in November. I don't know. Oh, and these are going to support ultra wideband. So hooray for that. That's actually like kind of a big deal. If for no other reason than it needed to happen. So yeah, there's that. Oh, and they have given pricing, which, okay. It's $29 for a single, or you can get a 4-pack for $99. So yeah, if you're looking to have a tag, yay, it's almost here. Also, these do not have a keychain loop built in. You have to get accessories to provide anything like that. So, yeah, the picture you see up here, that is basically a bumper rail that goes around the tag. Yeah, I get it, but I kind of wish they just sold like multiple models. That way you didn't have to get accessories. You could just get one that like fits on a keychain and that's it. Um okay, so I wanted to, let me find the right tab to jump to. Oh, I did have it in the right place. Okay. So moving on to the Pixel Watch 5. We've had 5. There were 4 before it, and now we are at the 5th. That's not quite maybe fair, because this one actually did get some notable enhancements. So you can do things like it can read gestures through your hand, or rather your wrist movement, a little bit better. This has let's see, oh, not that one. Is it no, not that. Did I have a tab open for this? Maybe I didn't. Okay, I guess not. I thought I did. Anyway, so they're upgrading again their health and fitness tracking. They're adding Google Health Coach, or sorry, enhancing Google Health Coach. They are, let's see, what else? Encouraging strength training. Trying to think. Oh, of course, more in sleep tracking, so on and so forth. Honestly, like, it's all the same things, but just a little better. Probably the biggest thing that they're pushing, and this starts getting into, and it really just feels like they're finally taking on Apple with loss of pulse detection. Um, so yeah, basically, if they detect that you're not breathing or your pulse has stopped, then yeah, they will react to this by contacting emergency services. Um, so let's see, persistent drops in oxygen saturation that can result from drug toxicity accidents, aka overdoses, severe pneumonia, choking. Yeah, it's doing something pretty cool here in terms of potential life-saving features. So they're finally taking on Apple kind of legitimately. So cheers to that. I'm a fan of this. Every company should be competing somewhere in this space, and I'm happy to see Google is doing it. Um, let's see. Other than that, if I remember, I don't think I'm missing anything, but I believe that's about it in terms of like really, really notable changes. Um, so all the same, like, hey, it may not have a long laundry list of new features or additions, but uh, they're I think that this is a pretty good one. Um, so let's see, they did go into more detail about, or they have a blog post dedicated to breathing related detection and whether or not to respond to it, how to react to it. Um, they discuss not a lot. It's a pretty light overview of how it all works, but it's, I guess, an interesting read if you want to check that out. And then we get to the Pixel 11. Oh boy, the Pixel 11. So, as you may have noticed from the title of this stream, as I called it, made by Google or made for Gemini. It really, kind of just how I felt watching a lot of this, because it that seems to be the focus. So really quick, I wanna highlight something because I think that this speaks volumes about how much really changed in the device this time around. Uh, the they had a blog post titled "7 Can't Miss Updates from Our Pixel 11 Launch." So first off, they highlight Gemini intelligence, um, and they mention a couple of features, including Rambler. That was the thing where you could basically talk to, Gemini, say something in normal speech with uhs and ums. You could basically kind of backtrack on something that you said. Like I could say that I like the way Gemini intelligence sounds, and then I could follow up by saying, "Oh wait, no, actually, I kind of don't like Gemini intelligence. Let's just say I think it's okay, but seems too much like Apple intelligence." Like, Rambler would then interpret that and go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, you didn't mean the first thing you said, you actually meant the second. Cool, we will just ignore the first thing and put in the second." Um, so, yeah, that's a cool feature. Cheers to them. They're doing that right. Um, let's see. They also highlighted that Gemini can now do multi-step tasks across apps. This is something that they previously announced during I/O. Basically, there are hooks where apps uh, allow Gemini to call right into their service. They can respond in whatever way they would or carry out actions, and basically it's just a way for Gemini and those apps to interact. Um, and the fact that they're at 40 now is fine, but honestly, I kind of expected it to be a higher number at this stage. Um, let's see. They also highlighted sign language to text. I don't have really anything to say about that, but I mean, cool. Yeah, good. It's a thing that should happen. To be honest, I actually thought they already had it. Just if someone had asked me, do they have sign language to text, I would have said I feel like I've seen a demo of it before, but I don't know. I guess maybe they didn't have it. Um. All right. Da, da, da. You can see productivity. Da, da, launching in preview. Location based. Oh, really quick. I meant to. I don't know why this popped back into my head, but the thing about breathing detection on the Pixel Watch, that is starting as a Europe first feature, which I said this in Discord at the time. I wonder if this is because the FDA has not cleared it yet, because most of the time Google launches stuff in the US first, and it's interesting to me that in this one instance they're starting Europe first. So I have a hunch the FDA is probably just in the way of that particular one. Anyway, so continuing on this 7 can't miss updates. The next thing was magic capture. This is basically a thing where you effectively just record video on your phone. I don't know if it requires actually turning on recording or if it does this like into RAM or something, but basically, yeah, you just capture some video, and from that video it will just sort of magic capture will just find particular stills or moments and turn them into photos that you can keep, that it considers to be particularly good captures. So that is cool. I mean, it's actually a legitimately cool feature. I'm glad that they're adding it. This is 100% one of those things that I think a lot of people are going to look down on because it seems gimmicky. But I think what you're going to end up finding is that there are going to be a bunch of I'll pick on a stereotype here, but your suburban parents who are going to use a feature like this and go, like they're going to be going to their kids' school events, or they're going to be, they have parties and going to parks all the time and whatever else, like kind of what's shown here, but you know like regular life, all the things that they do. And instead of capturing that stuff with a camera and being intentional about everything, I think they're going to want to just take their phone with them and just point it at everything and hope that they get stuff. And as long as this feature works reasonably well, they're going to get a lot of stuff that they're going to like. And they're going to love this. I think this is one of those features that is going to grab people so much that I don't think we recognize how much people are going to love this. It is just going to be that catchy with the right crowd. That being said, I believe that this is a Pixel first feature, but will probably end up just being available across Gemini at some point, like as something that they just roll out to all other Android phones. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But it seems like the kind of thing Google would probably want to put elsewhere, and when they do, I think it's gonna defeat the purpose of it being a Pixel feature. But I don't think they care. I think they're gonna be happy with just having a crap load of users using this feature once it's out and like in active use. Let's see. So yeah, Magic Capture, that's good. Now here's why I was wanting to pick on this post. This was 7 can't miss updates. Tell me how much you feel like you can't miss anything else on this list. The next one is camera looks. They're Instagram filters. That's it. It's Instagram filters. But you know, for Google Camera. That's all. I could have missed that. They have the Creator Suite, which adds a few features for people who are trying to make shorts, long form content, whatever. So one of the features that they are adding is a on-screen teleprompter. I do actually think that this is a useful thing. I'm not objecting to it, but not the hardest thing to do. Anyway, yeah, so this is just a teleprompter that highlights text as you've read it. So, nice, but missable. And you can also group videos into project folders, which, to be honest, I don't remember hearing that mentioned during the Made by Google event, but hey, I mean, yeah, it's a thing. Good. I don't object to it. But is it can't miss? I think it's missable. Take low light pictures much faster. It literally, yeah, it's night sight, but it takes less time to get there. So the thing is, honestly, the haloing effect that it seems to be giving here, the weird depth of field that's created because like the stars look sharper than they should. They're still fuzzy, but they're sharper than they should be. And his hair, if you look at like the back of his hair, that is so fuzzy. It's and you can see like smudges. You can't see my mouse cursor, but if you look basically where his ear is, but look straight up towards the top of his head, it looks like somebody just intentionally ran this Photoshop smudge tool on his hair, because it goes from highly detailed and sharp to suddenly just this blobby mess of pixels. And yeah, I don't know, it's great that they have this, but it feels like they not phoned it in, but it feels like a little ambitious to say that it's as far along. And then circle to search right from your camera. Okay, come on. That's just barely adding a feature. It's something that you could have already had if you just held down a button on the screen, which is what they even show it doing. and then you can just use circle to search. It's the same thing you already had. And then translate real world content without interruption. Again, it's translate. This is something we already had. Maybe it's a little faster, but yeah. Now the reason I highlight this is because that was 7 can't miss updates. No, it was 2 can't miss updates. One thing that's kind of a mildly nice addition for the right users, and 4 things that weren't really different or new or changed or honestly even good. So, you know, I don't mean to hate on it, but I feel like this is indicative of the fact that they didn't actually have that much to share yesterday. They launched 2 new devices, more if you want to count each individual phone, but they announced the watch and the phones, and then they didn't have anything to fill with, and that's kind of the problem. They didn't actually really bring that much new stuff. They basically just created an infomercial for people that want, or for people to clip and share, and for them to slice up and share in different capacities. Okay, so I did actually, I didn't really have anything else to say about Magic Capture. They did put out a very, very short blog post about it, which honestly, I'm a little disappointed that their blog post on an actual cool feature is this short. That feels a little weird to me, but whatever. They also highlighted one kind of new thing, is sort of, not really, but sort of. So they did bring this up during the announcement. Google now supports compatibility with AirPlay. This isn't something brand new. It's been available for at least, I think, a few months, right? Maybe it's even just a few weeks, but still, it is AirPlay compatible. And then the sharing functionality, one article has also brought up that they moved the NFC antenna higher on the back of the phone. Sorry, AirDrop. You're right. My bad. Apple and their branding names got me mixed up. So yeah, anyway, this will support AirDrop, and which actually, now that I'm looking at it, the blog post here does not mention that. But okay. The announcement did, and that's what matters. But also, they moved the antenna on the Pixel 11 up closer to the top so that it's less about tapping the back of your phone to the back of another phone, and more like tapping the top of your phone to the top of someone else's phone. Well, top end rather than glass side. To be precise. So minor improvements, but improvements nonetheless. And then we get to what has clearly become the most controversial feature of the Pixel 11 Pro: highlight. The LED that just lives on the back of the phone. Highlight has become, and I want to quickly give credit to CNET, because they Mike Sorrentino hit it perfectly. This is, well, okay, before I get to that, really quickly, what is highlight for anyone who might be catching this later? Should have stayed Pixel Glow. I kind of agree. Highlight is a very weird name, especially choosing specifically to play with capital letters the way they did. Anyway, what it is, they basically took the camera flash. That's what this is. It's the camera flash, and they put a series of tiny LEDs around it. That may sound like an overcomplicated solution. It will make sense momentarily, but effectively, what it allows you to do, And I realized that there was actually the animation on the store page. Let me pull that up. I think it was on, yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe let's go into the pro page. I think the animation shows up in here somewhere. Is it? No. Okay. But the key thing here is it doesn't just light up as a single color. It can also rotate the colors in basically kind of like animated form. Yeah, you can see it there. No, kind of. It showed it briefly, but I'll do that again. So yeah, it can show a single color, or it can show kind of a shimmering animation of colors. So what is highlight? Basically, the short version is it is a feature that can notify you of incoming calls by showing or give you a hint of who's calling you based on a color that you can assign to certain contacts. There are, I believe, 5 colors that you can set it to, which is weirdly limited. And multiple contacts can share the same color. So if you want, you could have like family members get teal. You could have like maybe your workplace gets yellow. I don't know. Anything like that. You could obviously configure it however you'd like. But yeah, that's pretty much how that functions. The other function for it, at least at present, is when Google Gemini is active. Actively listening to you. In which case, it performs the shimmering animation. So, that shimmer is sort of related to the same thing that you get if Gemini is active on your phone. It's vaguely reminiscent to like kind of the dancing lights on like an original Google Home or the Home Mini. Stuff like that. It's obviously like a certain visual feedback item. And before I go on, I will mention that Google itself has basically confirmed eventually, this isn't true today, but eventually this LED is also going to light up when you get notifications. Or sorry, not notifications, but specifically messaging notifications. And more specifically, this is worth calling out, only the ones that come through the messaging app. The Messages app, the one Google itself makes. You will not be getting these. Period. You will not be getting these with other messaging apps. So if you want this on WhatsApp, if you want this on Facebook Messenger, if you want this on any platform that Google has that supports messaging, of which I'm sure there's still at least a couple. Yeah, you are not going to, at least at present, they seem to have no plans to add support for those or allow those to support this, which is stupid. And that is the point that we get to with the CNET article and Mike Sorrentino's commentary, which is basically, what the hell? Who is this for? Why does this exist? And why they waste money and effort on doing this when it is basically dumb. And I agree. So I'm not against the idea of this existing for phone calls. I don't think most people will use it, but not every feature has to be for most people. You can have features that are for a limited set of people, and as long as they don't cost too much or severely impact the functionality of the product, I'm very happy when people are happy with the features they get, even if I personally won't use them. That being said, The scenario where I see this making a lot of sense is if you, let's say, have to go into a meeting, you sit down at a meeting table and you set your phone face down in front of you. If presumably it's turned to silent or has some sort of, or you're using the face down silence mode or whatever, the LED can come on, or highlight can come on, and give you an indicator if, let's say, oh, my kid is calling me. So you can get some sense of who it is without it causing any sort of vibrations, any sounds, any feedback, and that still tells you everything you need to know. And also, since it's just a color instead of something like always on display, which of course Alyssa's noting in chat she'll be continuing to use. The thing is, always on display, that notification, people can read it. People can see, oh, your kid is calling you or something like that. With this LED, only you know what the color represents. I'm not saying that that's important to everybody, but it is likely important to a few people, so I can see why this would be a desirable feature, and cheers. I think it should be there. I'm happy about that. That being said, what else is this useful for? I think the majority of people are not going to find it particularly useful for knowing who's calling. Maybe, you know, I don't know. Maybe if you're sitting in a movie theater or something, this might also be a kind of handy thing, or some other settings where it makes sense. But generally speaking, I don't think most people are even going to use this. Truthfully, if I got it, for one, I get so few calls, I would not be using this anyway. It wouldn't be worth it. But on top of that, I just don't think I would have a reason to actively use this. I'm not sitting in meeting rooms particularly often. I usually don't need this particular thing. So, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. Let's see. The other thing is the Gemini integration. Alyssa, I will answer that shortly. So the Gemini integration, I think is, I get it, but I also think it's dumb. So in what scenario do you need this? So in what scenario are you going to put your phone face down? Because this feature doesn't work if you can't see the LED indicator. It just serves no purpose if you can't physically see it. So, in what scenario do you put your phone face down and then need to speak to Gemini, and you need to see whether or not it's listening to you? I'm not kidding. What is the scenario here? Because let's say you are near to the phone where you have a good view of it. Are you, like, if you're speaking to Gemini, you probably could just see the screen. Like, why not just have the screen pointed up? And then you could see it happening on screen and know what's happening, instead of just seeing a little LED indicator. How about if you're far away? First off, I'm not sure you'd be able to see the indicator that clearly anyway. But again, if you're far away, wouldn't being able to see the screen be more functional? What is the scenario here where this is actually useful? I try to force some scenario or explanation for this existing, and I'm having a hard time doing it. So I guess what you want to turn your phone face down so that calls won't interrupt you, but you still need a visual indicator to know that Gemini is listening. I don't buy this. I don't get the logic of this. It doesn't make sense to me. I can't picture the use case where it's like, oh, it's so important that I can tell Gemini's listening but I also can't leave my phone face up. I don't get that scenario. Not really. I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all. Again, like maybe you need to mute your calls but have Gemini available. But then you could just also change the mode to do not disturb. Like there are so many ways to solve this. And I feel like adding this LED feature isn't really one of them. And I'm not saying that this specific functionality shouldn't exist. I'm asking more, why add highlight at all if your two usable scenarios are basically, it gives you a little bit of vague information about who's calling, and oh, by the way, it can also be an indicator for a feature that you probably shouldn't be using. The indicator part. I mean, fine, go ahead and use Gemini. Not really making an issue of that, but you don't need the listening indicator on the back of your phone for Gemini. At least I don't believe there's a good argument for that. Hey, Diablo, how's it going? Maybe if you somehow were disabled and phone landed down. Okay. I will grant you that one. That makes some sense. I think that is I don't want to say niche scenario, because I think that sort of thing can and does happen. So I'm not objecting to that as a scenario, but I think it's something that is going to be pretty infrequent. And for the most part, getting Gemini to listen and respond, probably, to me, the better solution is just give it an audio cue. I don't think that there's a lot of counter example for that one. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I do agree with it, but yeah, at the point where you need it to listen, it probably would just make more sense to have the audio cue on it. And yeah, fall detection on the watch would certainly be better. To be fair, this would make some sense in the scenario that you just aren't a watch owner. But, again, I don't know. There's just too many bits where this seems like a feature that they added and didn't know what to do with it. And hopefully they do add. I mean, they really do need to add message support. That will make a lot more sense, in my opinion. At least once it's there. But I don't like, that it wasn't there already. I think they should be embarrassed about not having it there at launch. Especially for a feature that I would think you should be able to add in like a matter of a few days. Honestly, like supporting this in messages should be a trivial feature. Oh, Diablo. Oh boy. I have maybe bad news. The thermometer is removed. Let's see. I believe it was this article that mentioned it. Okay, I guess not. But yeah. Yeah, they took out the thermometer and purportedly placed this in instead. So they removed something that nobody used, but was objectively still technically a useful feature. And they replaced it with a feature that is kind of objectively not a useful feature. So I'm not sure that was their most genius move. I don't know what to say beyond that. I think it's awkward that they did that, but hey, you never know. Which one is better? I see. That's the thing. Like, I I like the idea of having the LED there. Ironically, actually, what I'd rather have is to have it on the front. Well, I kind of want to have it on both front and back, but I kind of want to have it on the front because there's a bunch of times when I have the screen off, I'd kind of like to have just a blinking light when I have messages to deal with. Um, it must be a gag. How many features can we sell that are bad? That actually makes too much sense. um, so I don't hate that this is here. I hate that it's not useful to the vast majority of people, and that there are ways it could be made useful. Give this LED, first off, a few more colors. The fact that it is limited inexplicably to 5. Yeah, 5 colors. Why? This makes no sense to me. Why not at least, like, I don't know, a dozen or something? It's not a big ask. That I would assume maybe it can only produce those colors. LiDAR would have been nice. Oh god, yes. Yes, give us LiDAR, please. That would have been so much better. But yeah, then this Sorrentino brought up, and this is, I think, the first thing almost everybody thinks about is the Nothing phone. The Nothing phone, while ugly as sin and having a lot of funky choices in it, one of the things that it did do right is it had the what was it called, Glyph, I believe. Yeah, Glyph, which was a big series of LED lights that you could use in various ways. Apps could do clever things with Glyph, and you could light up like different things to signal all kinds of stuff. It was a useful feature. Look, for everything that Nothing has done that is kind of just wrong, they got that right. They made a genuinely interesting feature, and we should encourage that. Google showed up with something that's like the most bare bones minimalist version of that, and it's, like I said, kind of barely useful, if useful at all. I would love to have seen something more interesting and compelling. Now, I'm not saying that you need to have a full Glyph interface like they do on this, because obvious point, I think bears mentioning. There's one reason why that's not useful to most people, and that's because most people put their phones in cases. You know, I basically won't walk around without my phone in a case because, truthfully, I drop my phones a lot. Sometimes just goofy accidents, sometimes because I have a tendency to pass my phone back and forth between my hands by throwing it rather than just putting it in my hand. Whether or not that's a good idea, I know it's not. It is not going to stop me, and no one can make me stop doing that. Anyway, so also very notably, yes, the picture that's up right now, that's on the Asus ROG Phone 9 Pro, not a Nothing phone, but you get the idea. Let's see. Nothing is just the reincarnation of peak OnePlus. I don't know that I would go to peak. I think peak OnePlus was very early days OnePlus through like where early days OnePlus was just, hey, we're gonna use all the specs of a flagship phone, and we're just gonna put a budget, or well, not budget, but a mid-range price on it. And then OnePlus eventually found what I consider its real peak, which was we're gonna make phones that are like somewhere right between mid-range and premium, and then we're still gonna put a mid-range price that's where their phones were both profitable and good. And then uh uh then they went south, very south, very rapidly too. um let's see. And then so yeah, I'm kind of mad at this feature. Not mad, but it's disappointing. I feel like if they were going to make something, if they were going to try anything, this is like the weakest attempt at doing something. And it's over engineered, which honestly I don't mind the over engineering. The fact that it can be an animated light that shows shimmering colors is neat. But this was just, this was too little. What I would have loved to see, and I don't know, maybe this would have ended up being kind of garish or dumb, but what I would have liked to see instead of this, instead of just taking the flash and putting a bunch of little LEDs inside of it, what I think I would have rather seen is, imagine, look at the gold rim around the camera plateau here, and imagine if that whole thing was LEDs. Just a big oval of LEDs. And they can be dim. They don't have to do much, as long as they're multicolored and as long as they can be controlled by other stuff. You could have done so much more just with that alone. You could indicate a lot of stuff. You could use it to indicate battery life. You could use it to yeah, and that would have been the pixel glow bar for real. That would have looked cool. And you could animate it when a phone call comes in. You could I don't know, you could use it for timers. How cool would that be if you could just have a countdown timer on the back of your phone, just because? No screen on necessary. You just have some LEDs on the back that just trickle down as the timer runs out. And I don't know, maybe you can do that, or maybe it could technically be done with the highlight LED that they have currently. I don't know, and they obviously don't have that feature yet, but even if they can do it, that is a very tiny thing, and it wouldn't be very useful for seeing like a countdown timer. So yeah, I find myself disappointed by what could have been, and instead we got what is. So yeah, I want to see more than what they did. I think that this was a letdown. And I'm going to liken this to something I've talked about in the past, probably too much, but the touch bar that Apple tried on the MacBook Pros. The touch bar, I think, was a good idea. The implementation sucked, but it was a good idea. First off, it had some behaviors that were just stupid. There were just like how like certain things would be on the screen and just not be on the screen for very long. The limitations on interactions. There was a lot of stuff that it was okay, but it wasn't where it should have been. And people found some pretty clever ways to make it do more. But it also had a form factor issue. It was, one, replacing a row of keys that people actually used. But it was also it was also just in a place that was kind of awkward to try to use extensively. And also their interactions, at least in the initial version, didn't really support using it as an informative tool. One of the things I always asked for and wanted on it was to literally have something that could be on when your whole computer screen was off. Like, if I just want to be able to monitor a few things, if I want message notifications and like system temperature to be visible on there at all times, instead of having to turn on the screen. The problem was the touch bar went off at the same time as the screen went off. So you just had nothing there. And I think all of this was really dumb. Okay, so I always thought that the right solution to the touch bar was instead of the touch bar, I think they should have turned the giant trackpad into a whole nother screen. And use e-ink, or, use some lightweight light pass-through sort of thing underneath the surface. Anything like that. You could have then had you could have effectively had a screen. By the way, the trackpad on a MacBook Pro, or on any MacBook, is bigger than an iPhone screen. And most people consider an iPhone screen a pretty good surface to touch and tap and draw, maybe not draw on, but like use your finger to interact with. I always thought like the coolest thing would be turn that giant trackpad into a screen of its own, and just have a clever way to light up only that. And that could be your way of interacting with the system at various times. Using that to like fire off preset volume levels, or to activate shortcuts, to do all kinds of things without having to turn on your screen. That would be huge. Or even when the screen is on, be able to tap, I don't know, maybe a key to switch on this sort of functionality. You tap one or two things, and then you tap the key to make it go away. Like, there's so many ways you could have done something more with that. And it would be a good large surface instead of relying on a thin strip that was just not useful for most things. So yeah, I'm not happy. I'm not happy that they took the wrong implementation route with that. And bringing it back, I think the same is true with Highlight. It's nice that they wanted to try something. I think this was the wrong thing to try. Anyway, there is one last minor note about the Pixel 11, and it's that the Tensor G6 is not a 2nm chip. It is apparently using the 2nm process, the same process, but not 2nm nodes. Anyway, it is still 3nm. Oh no, sorry, it is using the 3nm process. Okay. Regardless, yeah. So it didn't set a record as being the first to use a 2nm process. There it goes. That's for anyone that cared about this. That has been, I guess, confirmed. I don't have the strongest opinion on that. It would have been nice for performance and heat and everything else, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, so Alyssa, you asked, did I get an 11 Pro, or Pro XL? I still haven't decided. So I have spent more time than I should have trying to find the right way to buy it and deciding if I actually want to. I don't just want to get the phone, I want to get the watch too. The things that are sitting in my mind about this. First off is, well, okay, I can already tell you exactly the phone configuration I want to get. That part's a given. The phone configuration is actually easy for me. No questions asked. If I do get a Pixel 11 Pro of any kind, it will be, first off, the XL. I like that size more. Simple as that. I like the size more. Do I need the XL? No, but the XL just fits my hand fine. And I like having a larger screen. I have had basically nothing but black phones for I don't know how long. And since I would be putting it inside of a case, I don't really care what the color is. And that comes with a very notable point. One of the reasons I have cared about colors in the past is because, at least with Apple products, the color absolutely dictated the front bezel color, which I always thought was stupid. It should not. The front bezel should always be black. In this case, it doesn't matter what color you would get. The front bezels are always black, so that's good. But I got to thinking, like, black is nice. I like black as a color, but if I'm already going to be putting it inside of a case all the time, it doesn't matter. How about the times where I might not want it inside of a case? Like, let's say while I'm driving in hot weather. If I'm driving in hot weather, if there's sun, and the sun is going to be hitting the phone because it's like, you know, up on the dash, or up on like a car mount for navigation, then the brightest color phone actually makes the most sense. So yeah, I think for the first time ever, I would get fog as my choice. For tech specs, it's a no-brainer. I want more RAM, 100%. Yeah, between 256 and 512, it's worth spending more for the extra RAM and the extra storage. I don't know if I would necessarily get huge use out of all that extra storage, but to be fair, I do actually run through storage pretty well. So I wouldn't need it, but I would like it. But yeah, the higher RAM, that is actually a big deal. So I would choose that. Carrier is kind of irrelevant. Trade-in is, well, for pricing, there's carrier, there's unlocked or Google Fi as options. There are other carrier offers, but I'll mention that in a second. If I was trading in, technically I have the choice to trade in either my 7 Pro or my 10 Pro XL. Given that the 7 Pro's value is probably going to be next to nothing after this year, I would be a little more inclined to trade that in. Even though I wouldn't get as much for it. But yeah, I'm a little undecided on that one. And as I've mentioned in Discord, I do actually like my 7 Pro for a few reasons, but I think those reasons kind of dwindle a little too quickly, and they're not strong enough to justify keeping it. Also, I'd kind of like to keep my 10 Pro because it will have more trade-in value for something that I might want to do later, and I'll mention that shortly. I don't bother with Pixel Care. I don't need the insurance on it. If something happens, I've got fallback phones. It's a non-issue. So anyway, that would be the configuration I would personally go with on this phone. Very notably, as I mentioned in Discord also, just to highlight this, notice if you change colors, you can also get the 1 terabyte and 16 gigs of RAM option. With Fog and Olive, these options don't exist, but with Canyon and Obsidian, the 1 terabyte option does exist. So yeah, that's interesting to me. Kind of weird. I don't love that. Also, I'm gonna show off another annoying thing, but that'll come in a moment. Yeah, so I don't know why colorway should decide whether or not you can get different RAM options, or a different storage option. But hey, it is what it is. So another thing that I just found kind of obnoxious to me. So if you go with unlocked, I'll just skip the trade-ins, skip that. If you go with unlocked, you can get the $250 off of a Pixel Watch 5 or a just straight $200 store credit. Great, thanks. Love that. If you go with the Google Fi option, skip the trade-in. Boom. You do not have the deal on the Pixel Watch or Google Store credit. Now I kind of get that because there is a kind of whopping $500 discount if you go with Fi. But that comes with another complication, and I'm not going to bother demonstrating this, but at the trade-in section, the trade-in values that you get if you trade in towards an unlocked phone versus the trade-in value that you get if you trade in towards Fi are very different. Like, humongously different. So between losing the Pixel Watch discount or the store credit, whichever, between losing that and the difference in trade-ins, I think the Google Fi option is not as cost effective, which is kind of crappy. I am trying to math this out to figure out which one makes the most sense, and if I'll even do it, because, oh, by the way, I should mention, I did get a discount code for $200 off on the phone. So with everything factored in, if I have this correct, oh yeah, the Obsidian version did get matte sides, which was interesting. I found that to be a little surprising. Again, it won't really matter to me since I'm going to put it in a case, but yeah, it is odd that they decided to do that. Anyway, so I have the $200 off code, and if I end up not using it, I'll definitely make it available in chat, but or in Discord. But yeah, I haven't decided what I'm doing with it yet. And to be fair, that's not that big of a difference from just using the 15% off discount that like Austin's code, his referral code would have. And I think actually I probably have those too. Yes, join Discord, folks. Anyone who's listening right now who is not already in the Discord, get in there. I believe the invite link is functioning again. That was only on a timeout, so it should be working. Anyway, so yeah, I need to do the math again because I originally collected a bunch of numbers to figure out what all of these things were going to cost, like each of these options, and I need to refactor all of them again. And since I want to get the watch too, or I'd like to get the watch too, I need to figure out the math with all of the different options and whether or not I even want to do it because, and this leads to the other part, it's August. It is currently August. We're definitely going to, well, first off, Black Friday is just 3 months away. I mean, September, October, November, Black Friday, boom. I bet their Black Friday discount is going to be pretty bonkers by then because unlike previous Pixel releases, a lot of their previous Pixel releases happened within like 4 to 6 weeks of Black Friday. This time, we're a full 3 months ahead of Black Friday. Like, actually, a little more than 3 months ahead of Black Friday. To be fair, I can probably wait and for Black Friday get a trade-in offer that is practically getting the phone for free. So it is a little bit of a debate for me if it's worth dumping a little more money into it now and getting it in, early, or do I wait and get it basically free when they come up with one of those Black Friday deals. And who knows, maybe they just won't. On the other hand, seeing as a lot of people seem to be going with the opinion that the 11 Pro just really wasn't that much of an upgrade, then I do kind of wonder, like, is Google going to get desperate to sell these? Because truthfully, I kind of think they are. So, yeah, you can see where I keep kind of talking myself in and out of this. Like, I want to get the 11 Pro. I'd like to get it sooner rather than later, but I also recognize there is a very high likelihood that if I wait, I will basically get it for free by just waiting like 3 months. Which is also a very appealing option. And I say getting it for free. I'm sure it won't be literally for free. I'll probably have to pay maybe like 50 to $100, maybe 150, something like that. But that would be better than, I think the lowest that I've been able to get it with, I think I found a way to get it down to $289 for me. And $289 is not bad. And that's just for the phone, not for the watch. $289 is not bad. That does involve trading in the 10 Pro XL, using all of my store credit, and I think that's it. Just those two. Oh, and using the $200 off code. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. But it's, so. Now, by the way, you asked about AT&T, and I want to bring that up too because, Diablo's saying the pre-order ship dates haven't been pushed back yet. Yeah, okay, that kind of screams that they're not selling a whole lot of these, at least not yet. Okay, so now about AT&T, this does bring up another complication in my decision making. So I looked, and AT&T does have the 11 Pro XL. They have all the options that I want. The caveat, of course, is it does involve getting a phone locked to a carrier, which never a fan of, but hey, it is what it is. And looking at the trade-in options, if I were to trade in my 7 Pro, I can get just a straightforward trade-in, and with bill credits, which is the other annoying part. But with bill credits, the total price comes down to $330, which, yeah, is a little higher than that $289. But again, I'd be trading in my older phone rather than the newer phone, and I still get to keep my Google Store credit. I still have, well, the code, the $200 off code doesn't do much for me, but it is what it is. So that's kind of interesting. And if I were to trade in my Pixel 10 Pro XL, I could actually get the price down to $130 total. And that's through bill credits. So it effectively cost me basically almost effectively nothing up front, and it just over 3 years or whatever, it trickles away $130. That's pretty freaking good. My only reservation about doing that, I have one reservation about doing that. When right now, we're basically back to the days of crazy carrier subsidies in order to get a phone that locks you into holding on to your contract. That's pretty much what we're at. Like, this is the same as the old days of contracts, just they changed what the contract said. And seeing as I can already get the Pixel 11 Pro XL for not that much, I'm a keen fan of the idea that you can also get other stuff off of your carrier at huge discounts as long as you're willing to jump through minor hoops, very minor hoops. So, begs a question, what else might I want to get? As of course it moves the damn thing. No, do not do that. I was trying to leave it on this. When the next iPhone gets announced, I'm more inclined to try to get that with a carrier discount and just trading in whatever. I'd find something. Hell, for what it's worth, if you just find something you can trade in that they consider to be worth $290 or whatever, you can buy something cheap off of Swappa, and then trade it in here and get a much more expensive phone for presumably cheap or free. I'm more inclined to do that. So I'd rather save my trade in with AT&T for something like that and then get a much more valuable phone that could be used for content, for testing, hell, even just resold. So, yeah, I'm leaning more in that direction. Also, quickly worth noting, while I'm still really reluctant, I will admit I do have curiosity about a Pixel Fold. I'm very reluctant because folding phones, one, lose their value very quickly, including their trade-in values. They are obviously much more breakable, but I have use cases now where I'd kind of actually be tempted to go try one. So, yeah, I haven't completely decided. There is a small part of me that's like, okay, maybe I don't get the 11 Pro XL, maybe I get the 11 Pro Fold. And I haven't even run the math on the trade-in for that, though I'm pretty sure that it works out to basically this price minus the two. Actually, it can work out probably pretty cheap. Did I already calculate the Fold? Oh, yeah, that's right, I did. Okay, on this other page. That doesn't seem right. Oh, that because I think that includes... Okay, I don't know if I've actually run this math yet, but I think with the RAM upgrade and a couple of other things, I think I get the 11 Fold with 512. I think I get that down to basically 900 after all the discounts. I might have that wrong, and I'm not sure that I applied the $200 off code with that. So I do not know that one yet. I'm not sure what that math worked out to. And also, yeah, really quick, since Diablo mentioned it, the Fi deal says it's a credit. Yeah, I've run the numbers on the Fi deal, and it is really tempting in ways, but then as I start doing comparisons, it's like, it might not be. It's a real toss-up, and you want to get the Fi deal not through Fi's website, you want to get through the Google store. Because that seems to make a difference on what like discounts and codes can apply, and it's just better getting it through the Google store. Or I think it is. But if you're in any way, shape, anyone listening, if you are considering this and you do have Fi, do price comparisons between the two and go all the way to the checkout screen. Go all the way to the point where you can hit the button that says complete checkout or confirm checkout or what, confirm purchase, whatever it says. Go all the way up to, but not past that point, because the numbers do not stay the same from screen to screen. Which probably comes as no surprise to anybody. Let's see. Alyssa, you said you're activating on your postpaid Verizon wireless plan if visible adds 5 gig MacBook Pro plans. You're switching instantly. Is that what MVP is supposed to be here? MacBook Pro. Let's see. Fold is getting better indeed. Wonder if they'll go Passport next. Full circle. 5G cell data. Okay, I still don't know what MVP is supposed to stand for there, but yeah. Yeah, I sure, I get that. Um anyway, so yeah, I'm torn on what to do. I haven't decided yet. Fortunately, it's not like I have to decide today. I could I could presumably wait. I have a funny feeling that I could wait several days and order then and still get the phone either on the same day everybody else does that pre-ordered, or uh pre-ordered yesterday morning, or I could possibly get it like a day or even a week later. Worst case scenario, I get it a week later. I can live with that. I don't care. Um, so yeah, I don't know yet. I haven't decided. It's all up in the air right now, but I'll get there. Um, and I think one way or the other, I am going to end up with a Pixel 11 Pro XL. It just might not be this. It might not be this month. It might take 2 or 3, but somewhere along the way, there will definitely be a deal that makes it so cheap as to be absurd not to do it. And I could easily see that happening. Um, it doesn't need to. I but at the same time, like, I'm not sure there's a reason to really spend the extra money if I could just ride it out with the 2 phones that I have now, which, for what it's worth, both of these are still really good phones. Make sure that screen doesn't show something it's not supposed to. Both of these are still great phones. The Pixel 7 Pro is still an awesome phone. It works great. There are a few things that use enough RAM that sometimes push other apps out of RAM. That's like the worst thing about it, is it just is a little RAM short. Um, and that's kind of why I'd like to upgrade. Other than that, that phone's actually fine. And the 10 Pro XL is doing everything I need it to do, which is some, but maybe not a huge amount. I'd like to, but I'm contemplating using it as a trade-in for the Fold, or possibly for an iPhone. Because very notably, if you I quickly did a little bit of the math on this. If you trade in at AT&T for the iPhone, um, the trade-in value of my 7 Pro is under their minimum trade to get the full discount on a 17 Pro, but the Pixel 10 Pro XL does hit the required threshold. So I'm thinking in 2 or 3 months, when the next iPhone comes out. 2 or 3 months. Who am I talking? What am I saying? It's going to be next month. Yeah, when it comes out next month, I could see just trading in my 10 and getting a really good discount on the iPhone, and just playing it out that way. So I don't know. Holding on to the 10 makes a lot of sense for trade-in values. That being said, I could also just, like I mentioned before, go the swap a route. Just find any phone that qualifies as being high enough trade-in value, buy that off of somebody, and promptly send it straight to Apple and get a better phone out of it. Which I don't know why more of that doesn't happen. Honestly, like, at a certain point, I'm almost surprised people don't make their listings saying specifically, like, here's the known trade-in value of this phone at this carrier. If you need to get this phone for a trade-in, it's perfect for that. Like, that's how I almost want to sell, or would want to buy or sell off of there. Same could go on eBay or wherever else, but you get the idea. Um, let's see. Visible added Pixel Watch plans, so they'll probably add data plans for 5G. As Apple is rumored to be adding optional 5G with their C2X modem this October, along with the OLED option. Okay, I sure. I don't know. That's too many layers deep of rumor and prediction. So not going to not a lot I could say on that. Hey Austin, it's quite the timing there. Because I was just finishing up discussing whether or not, or for how much, or what things I'm considering getting with the Pixel selection, which actually, since you just came along, I will also mention I did check on. I did check to see what my potential discounts might be through the Play Store, and they are offering 125 off on the Pixel 11 or the Pro or the Pro XL, 175 off on the Fold, and 60 off on the Watch 5. So plus I have a $200 off code that was emailed to me for the phone. So I am find a 15% off code. Well, again, as I just said, I've got a $200 off code, so basically the same thing. I think. Isn't that about the same? I don't know. I guess I'd have to compare. Alyssa, just saying, if Apple does release a 5G MacBook Pro this year, they're not. They're not. Next year. Anyway, so, well, maybe next year. But it's not this year. Anyway, but what was it? Oh, yeah. So the yeah, my options are a little complicated, and I need to do the math on what I would get. And I still, as I've said a couple of times now, I'm still in decision mode on whether or not I want to get the phone and watch now, or just wait until Black Friday, because yeah, I just think Black Friday is probably going to have crazy discounts, like, because I think the 11 Pro is not going to sell well, because frankly the 10 seemed to be like one of the more eagerly purchased phones. They advertised it pretty heavily, and I don't know how much they're advertising the 11, or how much they're going to advertise the 11, but I can't help but think that they're probably going to be not selling huge numbers of them, because price went up. Like, that's a big thing. The price went up. It just did. Their trade-ins might be sort of appealing for it, but I think they're going to hit a point where they're like, yeah, we made a lot of these, now we need to move them. And yeah, if you're so inclined, go back and listen to my section about the Highlight. I think Highlight is not a disaster, but I don't think it's good. I think it is massively disappointing. I think they could have done so much better, not just with it, but I think they just could have done a completely better thing. Yeah, it's exactly, it is quite revolutionary. So yeah, I do not have the strongest opinion of that. That being said, for for various reasons, I am looking at one. I want to be I need to pretty much always carry two phones anyway. So what I kind of want to do, because my Pixel 7 Pro is, it's getting kind of long in the tooth. The battery life is not what it used to be. It's still fine, but it definitely, like, I can feel that it's shorter. And I want the extra RAM. So these factors make it so that I do really want to upgrade it. I can live with waiting, 2 or 3 months to do that, but I would like to upgrade it. Likewise, I'm looking at being able to use the 10 Pro XL as a trade-in for other things to come. Or possibly just getting a Pixel 11 Fold. Or 11 Pro Fold, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm tempted to try the Fold. How does AT&T play with converting the physical SIM to eSIM? So I don't. First off, that's obviously not really an issue. It one way or the other, like, I already checked, and my 7 Pro does not have the option to convert my current SIM card into an eSIM. I don't know why that option isn't there, but it's not there. I wanted to see, because I wanted to figure out how easy it would be to just deal with that, and evidently it's not. I would have to go through their interface for it. That being said, oh well, as long as I'm not swapping constantly, it's just not an issue. I just need to activate the phone on my phone number. It'd be fine. Like, I can sort that out. The one thing that would be kind of interesting, though, is if I did end up using the Google Fi discount, that $500 discount that they offer. If I were to use that, then what I would need to do is switch my Pixel 10 to my AT&T number and activate the new Pixel 11 on my Fi number that already exists. So that would be a weird transition, and getting that to happen correctly could be a little awkward, but I don't think it'd be a problem. It's just potentially some goofiness. But that's it. Like, that's minor. Oh wait, really? Is there still a bad crease issue? I didn't look into it, but I was assuming that was going to be fixed on this one. Let's see. Phones, fold. I'm assuming it's not even going to be visible in this, but yeah, these are renders anyway. You can't see anything. Let's see. Pixel 11 Fold reviews. Okay, well, in a picture of a freshly unboxed one, it's not too obvious, but okay, so Samsung fixed it. Yeah, that just means Google will be a year behind. Okay, well, I can live with I can certainly live with not getting it. I'm not dying to get it. But I do have some use cases where I'd like to get a Fold. But since I don't think I'm going to get Samsung's, because their software situation's just unpleasant. Wait. Oh, give it 2 weeks? Yeah, for the creases to start showing up. That's rough, man. it kills me that there's a product that is actively being advertised and marketed so heavily, but it's got such a short shelf life before it just becomes like a joke, and it looks bad. That's such a that's such a crappy experience. Okay, so yeah, I'll just hold off on the fold until next year. Um and maybe by then they'll fix a couple of the other issues that I've heard about. Uh so yeah, anyway, yeah, like I said, I'm still kicking around the numbers trying to figure out what stuff makes sense. I'm technically, AT&T has not left the debate as a trade-in to get the 11 Pro, but I don't think I'm going to use AT&T just because, again, if I'm going to use my trade-in, I'd rather use it on something like an iPhone. But what? I hit the pause button, you jackasses. Stop activating it. But yeah, I'm more inclined to use that to get an iPhone because I can get it for dirt cheap just trading in another phone, and like that makes sense. Whereas if I don't have a trade in, an iPhone just becomes outrageously expensive. Um but if I through the Google Store, pre-order sales and various bonuses, store credit, all that stuff, I can get it for a reasonable price. Or again, as I have said a few times, just wait till Black Friday and get it probably for free. Um, let's see. Diablo. We think they would go back with wide fold. You never know. I mean, it's hard to say. They'll tinker with some stuff, but I kind of doubt it. Um, but maybe who knows. And Alyssa asking wrap up in the next 15. Yeah, pretty much. I will quickly just yeah, I was running out of anything to say for sure, but I will quickly wrap up by saying Overwatch. You asked about, or you mentioned new season. Yes, I'll be grinding out some Overwatch matches this weekend because they are doing another grind event. Of course they are. It is another one of those where you just have to play a crap load of matches to get through the event, and you basically need to bum rush it and play like every day or almost every day in order to get through it. I hate these. I really think that they are ruining the game with these grind events. It's funny, they did a developer live stream where they had somebody actively say very directly that they wanted to make these events feel less grindy, as she then proceeds to introduce how this event works, which requires going through it multiple levels of unlocking things and grinding. And it's like, you understand you literally just contradicted yourself. So yeah, I'm not loving that. See, for all the times, Alyssa, that you've called out various things as being obnoxious for player retention, like they're just designed for player retention, like long queue times and stuff like that. I will argue time and time again that stuff does not lead to player retention. These grind things are all about player retention, and they're gross. And honestly, I I know people who have burned out on the game now and won't play it because of the grind events. I'm getting to that point. I'm really getting to that point. So, yeah, I have a feeling. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm not happy about it. Uh, let's see. The other thing to mention, they introduced a new hero. Her name is Demon. Kind of like Diva, but Demon. And so far that hero is underwhelming, to say the least. So, yeah, kind of not changing much besides just making everyone play her in quick play for the giggles. Oh yeah, publishers care a lot about player retention, as they should. It's an important metric, but you want both short-term player retention and long-term player retention. You should not be trading one for the other, because holy crap, that just hurts you in the long run. But yeah, anyway, so I'll get into more of that this weekend during the game streams. In the meantime, thanks everyone for coming by, hanging out, and joining the stream. Austin, sorry I couldn't go on longer. But I have pretty much exhausted everything I had to say, and my voice is not far behind. Um, Seeing as I'm closing in on 3 hours, that's actually pretty good for not having my voice completely wrecked yet. I'm surprised by that. Anyway, and going solo because no Corbin. But anyway, I hope everyone has an excellent rest of their week. Of course, if you'd like to support their channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And massive thanks to supporters of the channel, David, Diablo, Carson, Austin, and Alyssa. Y'all are awesome human beings who deserve the best in life. Let's see. And was there anything else I'm forgetting? As always, if you're not, or if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Click the notification bell. Make sure that it jingles and jangles and makes all those neat little animations that tell you that you're gonna be told when I'm streaming. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just doing the YouTube thing. Anyway, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. I will see you all in Discord and hopefully this weekend for game streams. Good night, everybody.